Good evening, Belize, and welcome to XTV's news broadcast for Wednesday, May 28, 2025. Making the headlines tonight, teachers reject government's proposal and move to phase 2 of industrial action. Sickouts begin. KHMH Workers Union proceeds to action over pension negotiation stalemate. PM rejects speculation about budget delay, and former BAA GM says she advised proper review prior to contract issuance. We take our first break and return with the news in detail.
Make light work lighter.
Ba meme la disha hon sumut. Palisi aran se dio.
Welcome back with your news. I am Drea Espinosa. As the House of Representatives entered its third and final day of the budget debate today, teachers across the country staged a sick-out in demand of an 8.5% salary increase. The membership of the Belize National Teachers Union, BNTU, on Tuesday completed its voting on the government's counter-proposal of a 3% salary increase starting October this year, and then an additional increment at the start of fiscal year 2026 to 2027. After 9 p.m. Tuesday, the union president, Nadia Martin-Kaliz, announced that the membership voted overwhelmingly to reject the proposal. Weeks ago, the membership had already voted to put in place 3 phases of action leading to a full-blown strike if the government did not grant their demands. The second phase is a 2-day national shutdown.
As you're aware, government offered us a 3% salary adjustment commencing 1st of October 2025. The BNTU membership rejected that offer. 1,532 members voted no, while 438 members voted yes to the 3% salary adjustment proposal. That is clearly stating that the majority is saying no to the 3% salary adjustment being proposed by government. As it pertains to the reinstatement of your frozen increment, the BNTU strongly believes, as well as other unions, that you have worked for that was taken away from you during the COVID era. Government used it as some kind of fiscal incentive or ways of fiscal measures, I should say, ways of savings, and trying to ensure that they can afford to pay for whatever expenses they had during that time. But the reinstatement simply means that you deserve nothing but what is rightfully yours. Let me repeat that. The reinstatement of your frozen increments for April 1st, 2026 is yours. That's not something for us to be negotiating over. When we go in, what we need to discuss with them is when the second frozen increment will be given to you.
During his budget speech on Tuesday, Minister of the Public Service Henry Usher lumped together the restoration of withheld increments and the phased salary increase, arriving at a percentage of 14.5%. However, Kaliz debunked that statement after many members reached out for an explanation.
In reference to the salary adjustment, the government is proposing a 3% adjustment in October 2025 and an additional increment at the start of fiscal year 2026-2027 to make up for the frozen increment in 2021. In addition, the remaining 5.5% and a second frozen increment will be adjusted within a maximum 3-year period. Mr. Speaker, each increment represents 2.5 to 3% of an adjustment. So the actual figure is not 8.5%, but over 3 years it will be closer to 14.5%.
As I said earlier, it's not everything that they throw you away you respond to, but I have to respond to the 14.5. They are including in that the increments that you're supposed to receive, as well as the deferred increments that they're giving us back on the 1st of April. That's what they're looking at, and they are bringing it up to that. For us as a union, we don't see it that way. We don't see it that way simply because, and I'm telling you this, we don't see it that way because you have worked for that. You have worked for that. You have worked for that. And not every single member will get an increment. You have to earn that. There's a criteria that you have to follow. So throwing that out there, I call it propaganda. I call it gimmick. There are all these things that politicians will do just to mislead the people. But don't be misled, my BNTU members. Don't be misled. And don't get worked up over every single thing that you hear. Listen to your union. Listen directly to your union.
Minister of Education, Honorable Oscar Rekenya, expressed his disappointment at the decision of the membership.
I would say that it is rather unfortunate because, the joint negotiating team met with the leaders. I believe we had a very cordial, respectful, and very productive meeting. And we had hoped, of course, that the unions would seriously consider the proposal presented to them, given the fact that at this point, I believe that government is proposing what it can give. The honest truth is that at this point, the country cannot afford it. And we believe that, through a phased-in approach, that would be more reasonable. It would allow government to be able, to continue to grow the economy and certainly be able to be in a better position to support our teachers. I want to make it absolutely clear, as I said yesterday in my presentation, we value our teachers, we respect our teachers, we have had a very strong collaboration and support with our teachers and even the PSU or public servants. But the truth of the matter is that as a government, we have to be responsible for everybody. Not only the teachers, not only the public servants. We must ensure that the government can continue to provide other services to the nation.
The Prime Minister likewise burrowed down on his position from Tuesday that this is all the government can afford at this time.
When we met with the unions, they were asking for 8%. We are in effect giving them 14.5% because we are raising their salaries and we are unfreezing two increments. Each increment is approximately 3%. That would be 6%. And you add the 8.5%, you're looking at 14.5%. That is what we're offering them. And now for them, they ask for 8.5. We give them 14.5, and yet they're still rejecting it. I don't think they're acting in good faith. When we ask them to take a 10% cut and to freeze increments, we're asking for everyone to make a sacrifice. During COVID, they got their full 100% salaries, and they were not teaching most of the time, or after some of them teaching online. So they got their full salary. We had, it was about 30%, an unemployment rate of about 30%. Another 30% of underemployment, that people working the full week were not getting their full salaries. It's unfortunate that they're using the children as hostages, and they can continue to do so. But we can't give what we don't have. Again, we can't give what we don't have. And so if they're going to close the schools, well, the mothers, they have to close the schools because we cannot do more.
Both Rekenya and the Prime Minister expressed concerns about the sick-outs today.
Absolutely, very much concerned because, as you know, our parents, send their children to school. There are issues of safety for our children. There are issues of, just our children losing contact time and not being meaningfully engaged in learning. So obviously that is a concern for us. That is a concern for parents. And I want to make a special call and a plea to our teachers. I believe that, in good faith, we are still in negotiations. I believe that, respectfully, our teachers should reconsider and, go back to the classroom because we want to ensure that first and foremost, that our children are safe and that they are meaningfully engaged in learning.
How do you plan to tackle this issue if it escalates into further sick-outs and the 21 days notice of strike, which has already been issued?
Well, it's a matter for, the joint negotiating team and certainly, to be guided by cabinet for us to figure a way how we move forward.
They want to continue the sick-outs? What can I do?
You must be considering the children and this exam times as well, graduation period.
I think they should consider teachers. They are the teachers. We are paying them with taxpayers' monies. And then for them to use the students as hostages, that's on them.
Rekenya said they will continue to monitor the situation and repeated his appeal to the BNTU, particularly when it's exam and at graduation time. On a related note, the Public Service Union is expected to complete its vote on the proposal today. The Carl Huchner Memorial Authority Workers Union, KHMHAWU, has announced that it will proceed to action over stall negotiations about pension for the facility's over 500 staff members. In a release today, the union reported that after 4 months of engagement, there has been little to no tangible progress. They deem the refusal to engage in good faith negotiations as a troubling, quote, disregard for the very individuals who uphold the country's leading public health institution, end quote. The union says that during a meeting of the general membership, consensus was reached for a phased approach to industrial action. On Thursday, they intend to wear Gimme Me Pension t-shirts. On Friday, they will proceed to level 1 of industrial action, featuring peaceful demonstrations, a go slow, and media outreach. If no progress is made, subsequent phases will include work to rule and then a 21-day strike notice. Calling on the government to treat the matter with urgency, the union also asks the public for understanding, stating that the matter is not only about finances, but also about, quote, fairness, dignity, and long-term security for the healthcare professionals, end quote. There was much speculation about the delay in the presentation of the 2025-2026 budget. Some were sure that the PUP had used government funds as campaign financing, which it intended to replace with grant funding like the Belize $250 million from MCC that has now evaporated. The Prime Minister rejected the claim and provided further explanation about what led to the delay.
Have you taken a look at the budget? I mean, we have a surplus. For the first time, our government went to the election and never bad spend of the money and come with a surplus. Remember Dean Barrow, 2015, he had a budget deficit, a primary deficit of over $200+ million. We did not do that. We had a surplus of 70 million. You should be thanked, you should be praising us, not coming after us over something like that, but simple. Coming to the elections, remember when there's an election, we have hundreds of public officers working in the campaign. So many of them were not available to help to finish the budget, to get it done, the finishing touches of it, because a lot of the work started from October. That is one. But secondly, after the election, in my mind, I already knew that I wanted to do some changes within the cabinet. And so we had to wait so that then we know what is going where and then to put the budget according to that. So there's no mystery about it. It's simply that we just have to wait till after the elections to see what will go where. And lastly, it feels almost like a double standard. Mr. Barrow, in 2 occasions, had a budget way longer than us.
Prior to becoming a government minister, Honorable Drea Garcia Ramirez was the general manager of the Belize Airport Authority, BAA. In light of the 2 controversial 10-year contracts for a total of $28.5 million for the provision of security services at domestic airports to people linked to the Briceño administration, we asked her if there were any red flags surrounding the issuance of the contracts. She spoke in general terms, given that all the board members signed non-disclosure agreements. She revealed that she had advised that a legal expert review the contracts before issuance, and that when they were actually signed, she was not present.
The BAA is a statutory body, and by that I mean that it has a board. It is the policies and direction is controlled by a board. As the general manager, I was an ex-officio member without any voting rights under the Belize Airports Authority Act. So my role there was to follow out the instructions as set out by the board. And my role at the board was to take instruction and to give report. There were conversations regarding airport safety that started. The board decided to use selective tendering to ask for tenders, ask for proposals. At that point in time, there were a few proposals that were solicited. They came back. The bottom line or the value of the tenders was somewhat a bit more than I believe that the board had considered, and so it was left for a time. There were consultations with the major airlines in regards to increasing the rider fees to cover the increases in fees. There was some retendering. And then what I think happened was Christmas. I remember getting an email. I was out on sick leave. It was the 23rd. I was of the opinion that maybe it was a bit, maybe hasty, yes. But I was not there when the contracts were signed. I wasn't in office.
There when the decision to award it was taken?
No, I was not. Then when I came back I typically do not work between Christmas and New Year. So I would have left the 23rd or the 24th in any case. I was sick. So when it came to me, I advised that maybe it would be better for a legal counsel to look over the contracts, which would be basic and standard procedure. I am unaware if that was done, but when I came back, those contracts were signed and on my table. And so I cannot speak to the process again, just that they were. And I think the person that would be best to answer those questions would be the former chairperson, who is Mr. Ricardo Martin. He did document my thoughts and my preference for the handling of the contracts. However, I was not in a position to do much more than that. As I said, I do not have any voting privileges in the board, nor does any general manager under the current act.
Garcia Ramirez also explained that as a statutory board, the BAA handles its own financing, which is obtained from airplane rider fees and other fees. After the break, PM says much ado about nothing regarding Hosemai and sugar. Stay tuned.
Hi there. Are you on your phone right now? essential for everyday life.
When Minister of Agriculture Hussein Mai finally addressed his removal as substantive minister responsible for sugar industry, he said the cane farmers view it as treason, whereas Belize Sugar Industries could view it as a victory. He emphasized, however, that the change would not deter him from continuing his advocacy for cane farmers, the majority of whom are his constituents in Orange Walk South. This week, the Prime Minister downplayed the situation, saying it is being exaggerated.
You try to make an issue out of nothing. Minister Mai has the responsibility to represent all his constituents, not only cane farmers, in agriculture, teachers, young people, everybody. He is doing his job, and I commend him for that. It's not the Cane Farmers Associations, it's one cane farm in particular has asked for a meeting, and I've said they can meet with the, we are going to meet all of them together because they are no better or worse than anybody else. They're all in this together. What I have done, which is even before the election, I set up a task force. I have Dr. Avila, senior economist in agriculture from my ministry, to head the task force, along with a member from the Ministry of Agriculture, from the four associations, and also from from CIRDI or SIB, the sugar. We do it as Sugar Board, from them, and so they have been going through the recommendations from the that was given under the Commission of Inquiry, the COI. And they are almost finishing in coming up with some proposals that then I will be meeting with them to discuss those proposals.
Personnel from the National Emergency Management Organization, NEMO, the National Meteorological Service of Belize, and the National Hydrological Service met with members of the media to discuss how best information concerning national emergencies can be disseminated to the wider public. National Emergency Coordinator at NEMO, Daniel Mendez, spoke more on the importance of the media.
We at NEMO recognize that the media is a very important partner in sharing information before, during, and after any disaster event. So the purpose of inviting the media here was for you to listen from the experts from the National Met Service, the National Hydrological Service, and NEMO to hear and to respond to any questions that you may have regarding any of these kinds of events. We shared with you all of the correct scientific information. We also shared an information package that you can utilize as we begin the season, and this is just to ensure that we are all sharing the correct information. And so really the purpose was that information sharing with us, with the media. So we do the best job possible in sharing information if we do have to face a hurricane this year.
What are some of the challenges that NEMO has faced in the past when trying to disseminate information out to the media and the public that prompted a session like this?
Of course, there's always the issue of this misinformation and people listening to different sources and getting different information from many different areas. So what we wanted to do was to remind the media that any questions for any of these should be sent to us. We at NEMO rely on the National Met Service as our primary source of information for any meteorological issues. We rely on the National Hydrological Service for any issues that relate to flooding and anything that is needed at that point. So it's really important that we recognize the importance of these two agencies in providing the accurate and local information during these events.
Mendez said that the way information is released to the media will be streamlined and that other formats will be explored in order to reach a greater audience.
We have to make sure that we provide the most accurate and timely information. If we don't provide the timely information, then people may tend to look at other sources. But what we are trying to do is to streamline our efforts to improve our ability to provide information faster, more rapidly, and in different formats. Because we do know that we live in an age where not everyone listens to the news, not everyone watches TV. So we're trying to develop products that we can share on multiple formats, on social media, on TV and radio. And so it's really an effort for us to be able to have more improved products and more accessibility to the public.
NEMO's National Emergency Coordinator, Daniel Mendez, today reminded the media that NEMO's decisions are not made by a single person or entity, but explained that NEMO is an entire system. He said that many different agencies and ministries collaborate during times of national emergency.
NEMO is a system. As we kept saying last year, you heard us say the phrase, "We are NEMO," and really that's what it means. Every ministry of government becomes NEMO when there's an activation of the system. So every ministry, and also including the public, every agency, every home, every individual becomes part of that system. And so we all need to collaborate together to address the issue at that time. So NEMO is not one institution. It is not just my office. I don't make all the decisions. There are different operational committees which are headed by CEOs of the different ministries. And so these are the ones who have the different plans, and they're the ones who guide that work. And it's all divided into different functional areas. So it is an entire system, like I said. Everything is coordinated, and the entire government becomes NEMO during a response.
The 2025 Atlantic hurricane season officially begins in a few days and ends at the end of June. However, NEMO's National Emergency Coordinator, Daniel Mendez, advised residents to get ready for the season from now before it is too late. Mendez said that their website offers guidance on how to begin a family or company plan and includes information on shelters across the country.
The time to prepare for tropicals, for hurricane season is now. This is a time where you need to start to create your own emergency plans for your own family. You need to know what you're going to do if we have a system developing. Where are you going to go? What are you going to take? Who will you stay with? How will you get there? So these are things that you need to find out right now. You can go to our website, nemo.org.bz. We have provided far more information, particularly in finding templates for family plans. We have a template for business plans. You're also able to find shelters across the country. We have a function there where you can search for shelters. That will help you in determining really finding out what you want to do. We also have information packages there, so you can also track hurricanes and tropical storms from our website and also on the Met Service website. So I encourage people to go to our website and to visit it and see what we have on offer to be able to help you in making your preparations.
Many companies and organizations are already fine-tuning their hurricane plans, and that includes Help Age Belize. Yesterday, its executive director, Ivorine Bulwer, said that they are fully prepared. They are planning to evacuate their members to Belmopan if needed.
We are prepared. Just yesterday, a team from the Sister Cecilia Home Board of Directors, we visited Belmopan, the Hazel Hutchinson Center. That's a hurricane shelter, designated hurricane shelter, and cited as a hurricane shelter by NEMO. And we were up there to do a walkthrough and evaluation of the site and to look at the layout in event of any disaster, how we will deploy our residents or staff, the different areas set up in the event that we have to move to Belmopan from Belize City. Yes, so certainly we are prepared. So in event of there's a hurricane category 2, we will move to Belmopan, and we have our plan already in place. Belmopan has been working in close collaboration in event. There is a disaster. We have a container storage room where those food stuff will be placed, and the BDF, NEMO will provide us with the cots for our clients. So we are fully prepared.
A workshop was held today in Belize City where members of the Belize Federation of Fishers, BFF, were given an update following previous workshops held with the Belize Fisheries Project, coordinated by the Summit Foundation. Nigel Martinez, the director of the BFF, shared more information on what was presented and discussed during the workshop.
We're a part of the Belize Fisheries Project, and over the years they have been coming to Belize, invited by the Belize Federation of Fishers to basically inform us about the role science plays in fisheries management. So this workshop today is a follow-up of those previous workshops that we had over the last 2 years. So this morning we were basically looking at the current status, we were looking at the governance and the social landscape of the fishing sector. And then we kind of dive into what a fisheries management plan should look like. And so while we were discussing that, we were having open discussion with some of our fisher folks who are represented here from across the country, actually from all the way from Corozal to Barranco. And just for context, I want to say that the BFF represent over 17 association / groups of fisher folks, fishing community. Our prime objective is representing commercial fisher folks, and our mandate is education, capacity building, and advocacy. So what we're doing here today kind of contribute to our mandate of education and capacity, keeping the fishers abreast of the status, keeping the fishers abreast of what management of our natural resources should look like, especially the species.
Martinez explained that ultimately the fisher folk want to unify and gain a seat on the Fisheries Advisory Council and other such similar entities.
Well, that has always been one of the Federation mandate, to ensure that we continue to advocate on behalf of fisher folks across the board. As you know, recently we have joined our voices with the Belize Flat Fishers Association because we both face the same challenges of poverty, social equity, and recently we're looking at dredging and land reclamation. So we have always stated that in order for us to truly represent our fishers, we need to have a united voice. So one of the things the BFF has been doing right now, currently, is organizing and legalizing all our association in the respective community so that we can form a stronger voice. And the goal of that is to ensure that we have a seat on the Fisheries Advisory Council, on the Fisheries Advisory Council, the Belize Funds for Sustainable Future Board, and all these entities that are are legal entities that are making policies and legislation that are impacting the livelihood and well-being of our fisher folks.
Martinez shared he feels the time is near where they will be given a seat at the table. After the break, Minister says new legislation will provide for other guardians getting children's custody when needed. Stay tuned.
Imagine getting rewards for your spending.
On Friday, the family of 14-year-old Belizean student Giely Vasquez of Benque Viejo del Carmen, Cayo, reported her missing. At the time, the family told police that they had last seen her on Thursday morning at 7:30 when she had traveled across the border to Melchor de Mencos in Guatemala. However, over the weekend, a video was uploaded to Facebook where the teen explained she had left her home due to sexual harassment by her mother's partner. She said her mother did not believe her and she left for her own safety. She asked to be left alone. As it should, the case elicited much concern from the public. She was later found and placed in the custody of the state, where she remains and will remain until the court reviews her case again. Today, the Minister of Human Development, Honorable Tia Garcia Ramirez, told us that due to an initial court order and because of the death of the teen's father 5 years ago, custody was awarded to her mother. The minister says amendments to the relevant legislation currently in train will see nuanced cases like these properly addressed, because the legislation will then provide for other suitable guardians to be considered to obtain custody.
So we will have to go back to court with the minor and new information and appeal to the court and the justice system in the country to replace her elsewhere with another family member. That will have to be vetted. That will have to go through the entire process of vetting to ensure the minor's safety. It is our hope that then she will be placed with another family member, because that's what is what we would want. Those are the outcomes we would want. The child at this age is old enough to know her own mind, and so it is the hope that the courts will listen and that we will be able to help her relocate to where she feels safe and she's happy. I want to reiterate that it is this ministry and the wider government's priority that children, especially, their well-being is placed above anybody else's.
NEMO's Daniel Mendez today reminded the public that they not only monitor hurricanes. He said that in recent years, NEMO has monitored forest fires and flooding. He also explained that NEMO has 10 offices across the country.
The vigilance at the national system never stops. We not only monitor, we're not only monitoring potential systems, we also monitor things like forest fires and anything else that is important. NEMO is not a hurricane-only organization. We function 24/7 throughout the year. Our officers are on duty all the time, and so we monitor anything that is that may threaten public safety and well-being. So we have 10 offices across the country. We have an office in every district. So there's one in Corozal Town, Orange Walk Town. There's an office in Ladyville. There's one in Belize City. We have an office in San Pedro, in Key Cocker. There is a Belmopan office, one in San Ignacio. We have a Dangriga office, and there's one in Punta Gorda near the Machaca Forest Station.
Temperatures have of late been high, and residents have been advised to keep hydrated, wear sunscreen, and to stay in the shade when possible, especially around midday. However, we are also encouraged to ensure that the vulnerable in the community remain cool as well, such as the elderly. Help Age Belize Executive Director Ivorine Bulwer shared tips on how to do so.
Keeping in a nice, cool, ventilated place is important. Use the use of fans, if they have fans, and drinking a lot of fluids. That is important, because one thing we need to recognize that older persons are not really, they may have some different medical condition, whether they are diabetic or hypertensive cases. They need to be kept cool. And at the same time, we need to recognize their immune system. We have to recognize that they may become dehydrated. Some of them may have mobility or movement issues, so we have to decide, okay, we need to have put extra water by their bedside or their table side or where they are sitting. We have to look at the condition of the various older persons, if they can move or they cannot move, but to ensure that they have enough fluids. They have their oranges, their orange juices, cool drinks, and you have these nice cool pads, because we could decide that they can use a little rugs, warm up on their forehead, or maybe a nice warm towel on their back. We have to try and keep them warm as best as possible. At the same time, we need to advise that what they wear, light linen, all right, cool linen. No, we can't look at these polyester, the long pants. They need to be as comfortable as possible. The room have the windows open, well ventilation.
And in other news, Honorable Hossein, Minister of Agriculture, today revealed that Belize now has almost 100 confirmed cases of New World screwworm infections. However, he added that this can actually be seen as good news, considering how much worse the spread has been for other countries in the region. He also disclosed that there are still issues getting sterilized flies for Belize, but he explained that may be a blessing in disguise.
We are close to 100 cases of screwworm in Belize. 100 cases in 5 months is very, very good. Given the cases of other countries, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, had 20,000 cases, 15,000 cases. Mexico was infected 1 month before us. And they are at 1,000 or close to 2,000 cases, I believe it is. Right? But they have been dumping sterile flies there too. We have not been dumping sterile flies. For some reason, they don't want to give us sterile flies.
Can't we get it from anywhere else?
No. There's only one plant in the world so far, and it's in Panama. It's owned by the Americans. It's COPEG, Comisión Panameña Americana para la Erradicación de Gusano Mordedor. They own the flies, and so, but we don't know. There's many things that are uncertain yet, and that we are studying at the regional level. There are many who are skeptical, or they doubt that the fly is working the way it should be working. I used to be a technician 30 years ago, and when there's one case of screwworm and the airplane will come in and disperse flies in the area, you won't see another screwworm again. It's eliminated. But in this case, we have evidence where there's only one case, the dump flies, and then there's more afterwards. So that is still is not something that has been proven. It's only observation, right? It needs to be scientifically tested. The fly has to be tested. The eggs need to be tested. They will study the fly. Is it that the sterile fly does not mate with the fertile fly? There are many questions, right? But probably it's a blessing in disguise. Why the fact that we don't have sterile flies.
Speculation.
Speculation, right? But we are doing fine. Everybody looks at me like, hey, what are you guys doing?
And with that, we have come to the end of our newscast. The repeat can be viewed on this station later tonight at 9 and again tomorrow at midday. Join us again tomorrow for another news broadcast. I am Drea Espinosa. Have a safe and enjoyable evening.